probably go for about 2 hours. But the first thing that I wanted to talk about is some basing, and I get a lot of requests and questions about how I do my basing. Let me see if I can find a model that would be a good model to showcase. I'm gonna reach up above my shelf, and hopefully there's a model here with some basing. So here we go. We have this is a possessed Death Guard, and you guys can check out my Instagram, either JimOV_paints or Duplicity Paint Instagram. And I do like a very kind of Cork basing scheme, and I get a lot of questions about that. So I just wanted to kind of go through kind of how I do that. So what I have here, a few different things. So there's a few secrets. So here is Elmer's Pro Bond. This is basically it's supposed to be a wood filler, but and I've used a lot of different types of basing filler, but I actually find this is probably the best filler. So this is something that I really like. I have some cork. Now there's a few different types of cork you can get, but this is basically like a hard cork. It's quite dense. A few other types of cork you can get. They're like, they kind of crumble a lot more. I don't like those ones, but this is actually where I got this is basically a Lazy Susan that like you get those like they're meant to like put your pots and pans on, and they're like really dense cork so that like you don't burn your table. That's literally, I got a 3-pack of those from like Walmart for like $6, and this tub of Elmer's Pro Bond, which is about $10. So this is really cheap material to get. And then I have a sculpting tool. So this is a Games Workshop sculpting tool, texture tool. Don't ask me where I got this. I never bought it. I would never pay for a GW sculpting tool. I think it came with like a painting kit or something that I won, but I use this one specifically because it is a little flexible. And then some super glue. So this is an old bottle of super glue, and that's actually a really good tip. I find that super glue over time, it's kind of can get quite gnarly. And so what I usually do is I have kind of like a super glue dump, and anytime I'm getting kind of close to the end of a bottle, I'll dump any of the extra that's starting to get kind of quite thick and kind of gnarly into that bottle. And so this is actually like 3 types of super glue, 3 brands kind of mixed together, and it's super thick, much thicker than when you buy it. And it's not quite as sticky as like, it won't quite bond the same way as like regular super glue. But because I'm just doing terrain and basing, this is perfect for that. I don't need a quick bond or like something that's going to be super thin. I want kind of a thick glue. And then you need a very sharp hobby knife. I actually got like a 10-pack of these like really, really tiny box cutters off Amazon. And then you need some bases. So I'm going to open this first box of Death Guard. What's going on, Adam? Good to see you. So I'm going to pull this box of Death Guard, and I'm going to pull a base out. These Death Shroud are actually disgusting in 8th edition, or 9th edition. I think they're probably the best unit in the Death Guard book. So, and these boxes, to get these boxes, I had to like literally like track them down at like random hobby stores throughout the US, get them shipped to my restaurant in Portland because they wouldn't ship to Canada, and get the people in the restaurant to ship me them to Canada. So that's the length I went to track down these Death Shroud. They cost me I got them at normal retail price, which is nice. Actually 15% off, so it ended up working out, but they're amazing, especially paired with a Biologist Putrefier. And the jank with that is basically, for those of you that are gamers and actually play competitively like me, the jank with that is the Putrefier lets you pick one core unit that basically does mortal wounds on 6s to wound. And so Death Shrouds are obviously core, so you can combine those 2 things together. And then instead of doing your cleave attack, which is your big attack with your Death Shroud, you switch to the sweep attack, which basically doubles their attack. So each Death Shroud Terminator is going to get 4 attacks base. So a unit of 4 Death Shroud is going to get 34 attacks, hitting on 2s. Now, if you give the Putrefier Arch-Contaminator Warlord trait, he's going to let them reroll all wound rolls. So basically the way that you do it is you charge them in, they're going to hit on 2s, hopefully you have a Lord nearby, rerolling 1s, and if they're hitting on 3s for any reason, say there's enemies at -1, you can use a strat to give them +1 hit. So you're almost getting, let's say, 33 hits, and then you roll your 33 wounds, and you're fishing for 6s. So with the Arch Contaminator, you can actually reroll all your wound rolls, and so 34 dice with full rerolls, you're getting about 7 or 8 mortal wounds from the on the Death Shroud, on top of their normal damage. So it actually statistically, even against really tough targets, it's much better to do the sweep attack because of the mortal wound generation, and obviously mortal wounds ignore saves. So you're able to basically take down things with a huge amount of kind of toughness with just a unit of like 4 Death Shroud. And the Peach Ryan, he's only 65 points, which is crazy. So that's really nice. All right, so getting into the bases, I'm gonna put these Death Shroud aside. I'm gonna actually build these later on stream. But yes, so first thing I do, now this stuff looks kind of goopy, and it does actually dry out pretty regularly. So every once in a while, I'll actually add a little water to it. If you don't have a squeeze bottle like this, I highly recommend it. This is basically a like you can get a 2-pack for like $6 on Amazon, and they're actually really good for hydrating your wet palette, washing out your airbrush, adding water to stuff, etc. So and the nice thing about this is because it's separate from your paint water where you're going to wash your brushes, you're not going to have like metallic flakes in here or other things like that. So I highly recommend getting one for your water. I also use one here for my airbrush medium, and I have another one here with airbrush cleaner, or sometimes if you want to put isopropyl alcohol. So for like literally $10, you have these really nifty tubes. So this is very nicely hydrated. I'm not going to do much with it. And first thing I'm going to do is basically take my cork and basically just break it up with my hands into kind of rough pieces to match my my base sizes. So sometimes you don't want them all the same. You do want a variety of these bases. So I'm going to do like basically one small like that, and then just one big like that. And the reason I'm going to just use one here is because I'm actually going to cut it in half. If I put this on the base just like that, it's like an inch, almost a quarter inch, half an inch add to the height, which is a little bit too much for our purposes. We don't want these guys being like super chunky. So I'm just going to cut this in half really roughly. My knife. Make sure it's a very sharp box cutter. Cut it in half, and I usually try to cut it at an angle so that like the pieces aren't flat, so they're kind of like angular pieces. Okay, so I got my piece here, and I can actually do I'm gonna do 9 bases today, but I'm just gonna show you these first 3 before I move on. So, so next thing is I'm gonna get my super glue, and because this is that older super glue, it's gonna be super thick. You can kind of see how thick it is, hopefully on camera. So it's like really thick. Just kind of spread that out. I know Adam likes it thick, so hopefully he likes this. I'm gonna just put that right down on the base. That. And I like to make sure that they're fairly flat on top. We can fix that later, but it's nice for them to be fairly flat so that you can attach your models to it. So thanks for everyone that's tuning in. If you're tuning in on Facebook, Twitch, and or YouTube, please make sure to follow my page on the other platforms so that I can get some followers, and I'd love to be able to have you guys follow us on all platforms. I'm going to be posting a lot of more hobby videos to YouTube and Twitch, and doing weekly live streams. Also going to be doing some discussion and bringing on some special guests as well. Hint, Adam Camilleri, if you want to come on, I'd love to have a really long conversation with you about Dark Angels and why they're the worst chapter. So, all right, so I'm going to grab those 3 bases. I love the new artwork on these boxes. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Okay, going to get another 3. Like, that would be a good ASMR channel, just like opening. Actually, Koska is going to be doing some content with me. Tyrannosaurus. Well, you know what, Adam? See, everyone's doing competitive content and or hobby stuff, but I just want to have like, and I think me and Koska are going to do a bit of this, but probably not. But I want to do like some really fun sections on just like background. I know you're pretty deep in the lore because I can tell when you talk about it on Forge Narrative. So I do know. So I want to do some more like deep dives into like characters, chapters, like various history and lore of various different like known 40k stuff, just as a nice break from all the 40k competitive content. Okay, so I've got my 3 bases here. These ones are done. I'm gonna quickly glue on some cork to these ones. And just be really careful you don't cut yourself, because I would feel really bad, and you'll feel really bad when you are missing the tip. For safety first when it comes to this stuff. And again, I've just cut this in half, and then I'm gonna basically break it down, give like a little piece to each. You can go, for some, I like to just do like really small ones. I don't like to have like big pieces of cork on each base. Maybe that one will be small. A nice variety of different sizes. If you need to, you can kind of further cut these down, like little nubbins. Whoa, there goes a piece. Alright. Let me know if the music's too loud, by the way. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but like overshadowing my my voice. Alright, so next I'm gonna glue these down. Stinky. Spotify print. Okay, and then a little one there. Okay, so that's all my basing as far as like my cork. Next, I usually save this stuff, so any big pieces like this I'll save for like the next basing, but all these little guys I'm just gonna get rid of because they're not that exciting. Everyone that is tuning in, thank you. All right, so oops, that guy kind of fell off. And then the last step here is going to be grabbing our, this is our Elmer's Pro Bond, and I'm going to basically just use the scooping end of this, the gooperator is what I'm going to call it, and I'm basically just going to dump on some goop here. And the purpose of this, the purpose of using this, and like I know a lot of people just use like straight cork and then maybe throw some sand on it and call it a day, but the purpose of this is actually twofold. The first is to help blend the rock into the base. So generally what I'll do is I'll kind of go around the rock first with the goop to just make sure that the blend is a little more seamless and there's like a little bit of continuity between the base and the like cork. But the second reason is that if you glue directly onto the cork, because the cork can break, it's quite actually fragile. It's very easy for your models to kind of break right off your base and taking a big chunk of the cork with them. So generally I always recommend doing some on top as well, and also add some texture. So I kind of use the end here to kind of texture it a little bit, and this way it doesn't just look like cork that you painted like rock color. You can add like little crags with your tool. It's going to help you just kind of look a little bit more of a realistic rock texture. You can still leave a little bit of cork kind of underneath, and then that's it. That's basically the base. So I'm going to leave that to dry for probably about an hour, and then it'll be done. And then your final result is going to be something like this. So these are bases that I prepared earlier. They've dried super hard. I'm just going to turn it on. There we go. They've dried super hard. So it's actually, this Pro Bond is so hard that you can actually sand it. So it's got a really nice like strength to it. And then these ones will get models basically glued directly on. Now, when I'm actually gluing the models directly on the base, another trick to do is when you have a model with an, basically a inconsistent, like it's not flat, you're gonna do the old green stuff trick. So you take your model's feet, you put a little bit of super glue on each foot, you put a dot of green stuff on each foot, and then you put another dot of super glue on that, and then you kind of mash it into the base. And what that allows you to do is to have a model sit on a base like this that's not even, if it's got flat legs, and it's going to bond. That super glue green stuff goop is going to bond super strong. It's going to create like a very strong bond, and then you can basically use your sculpting tool to blend the green stuff, if there's any kind of like mushed out, into the base as well. And so you end up with a situation like this is a Terminator that I painted for my you get a situation like this where they're able to stand on a base that is like kind of risen and rocky, but it is kind of, even though their feet are flat, they're green stuffed into that that rocky base, and it's not going to break off. If you're wondering where the arm is for this, I just finished painting a whole unit of 10 Chaos Terminators, but the Lightning Claw arms have not arrived because I got them 3D printed due to the fact that GW only gives you only gives you two Lightning Claws in every 5-man box. So I have a set of Lightning Claws that have been 3D printed, and I'm waiting on those parts to arrive. But once those are here, I'm going to be able to finish that unit and also. Yeah, so that's kind of the basing tutorial. So I'm just going to continue to base these guys. And the reason I'm doing this now and not painting is because I want to glue the death shrouds onto the base. But I need these bases to be done first before I do that. So this is usually the first step I do of any model project, is I get the bases ready. Now you can also use 3D bases, 3D printed bases or resin bases. I actually do have a decent amount of those. And I think I use them kind of sparingly. But if you're looking for like a really cheap way to do a lot of bases, that's not just sand and rock, this is kind of what I think is like a really great fit. They're super tough. They look great. It doesn't require a ton of like money or on resin bases. And if you even want, you can basically add a little bit of weight to the bottom. So sometimes I'll glue like some metal if it's like a heavy model. Now that's not really a thing these days with shop, all plastic, but I do occasionally metal models or models that are quite top heavy with it, or something that like I don't know. I'm basing that. You can see here, it gets quite chunky in the back, and then on the edges it's a little bit smoother. So this is where I might add a little bit of water. You don't want to add too much water because if it's too wet, when you go to kind of I guess make the texture, it's gonna end up really smooth. It's gonna end up very like I don't know, like it's gonna almost look like it's like polished. But you do want it to be a little bit kind of like dry and craggy. And this will allow it to have nice little kind of sharp edges, which is what you'd see in like traditional rock. So that's really important that you don't overhydrate it. And if you do by accident overhydrate it, just leave the lid off for a few hours, and this stuff dries actually quite fast for what it is. So you can just leave the lid off for a few hours, and yeah. So, what is everyone else working on? Is anyone else working on hobby stuff? I actually just got a big amount of. I'm working on a Death Guard commission right now, but for my personal collection, I just got like a bunch of backordered products. So on top of these 9 Death Shrouds, I have 20 Poxwalkers. I have 2 Tempter Dreads with Volkites, Death Guard as well, and I also have this Demon Prince Sigvald that I'm painting. I talked a little bit about that. Nice, Chronomancer. Those models are so cool, Dan. Those. Yeah, sorry, I got what was it? I got Sigvald model, and I kind of talked a little bit about this on stream, and I converted him up with obviously an Abaddon sword, because if you want to know the story behind me and Abaddon swords, go rewatch yesterday's stream. I kind of went into that whole history of me and Abaddon swords, so I'm going to be doing that as well. And then I'm also working on a custom actually, Adam will like this. I'm doing a Dark Angels army commission for a gentleman, and it's going to be 3,000 points of Dark Angels. So after I'm these Death Guard, that's what I'm going to be working on. Unfortunately, they will not be in the scheme of the first Legion. They're going to be in a custom scheme. This is going to be the custom scheme. So it's basically a turquoise with bone and gold highlights. So I'm going to be doing that as well. And then what else? So other news, exciting news. We are playing Germany. Canada's playing Germany in the Hammer TTS event that I've been involved in. So just found out last night. We're actually number 1 in the event, but it's only been 2 rounds. Yeah, Dandy, the Pro Aquals are really nice. I find that they're quite matte, which is really nice, which I like. I literally douse all my models with matte varnish. I know a lot of people like satin, but I am an old Testors Dull Coat diehard. I know they don't make it anymore, but lately I've been using the Vallejo matte varnish spray. So it's like it's kind of spiritual successor to it. It's actually quite good. It comes in a slightly larger can than the Vallejo ever did, or sorry, the Testors ever did. So I've been really liking that. Um, the my only complaint with the Pro Aquil is that there's not enough colors, and their range is still quite small. Germany match. Tom, I do not know the score. I just know that thing. Or I don't know. There might be still one game left in the Germany push match. I'm not quite sure, but I think we're playing the Germans. So, unfortunately, for those who had been in love with my Defathers, I know Tom really likes Defathers. They're no longer in my list, which is sad. But I actually found that in the TTS WTC meta, the tables are just not very good for defilers because they are just way too trained. So I think in that case, the PBCs are probably a better choice, but I'm stubborn and I like my crabs. I don't have crabs, but I like crabs. All right, so that's it. So those are the 9 bases for my Death Shroud. Yeah. Rub it in. So those are the 9 bases for my Death Shroud. All done. I'm going to leave these to dry to the side, and then they'll be ready to go. So that's kind of for my. I'm in the Death Shroud like donks there, Tom. I got. I'm going to have 14 Death Shroud after these all done, which is kind of my excited for those. But